Good morning, good day, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all races, ages, genders, sexual orientations, religions, etc. This video is a long time coming. I've been sleeping on this video for so long that I wouldn't be surprised if no one remembers why this video is important. Let me take you down memory lane real quick. I noticed a lot of references to the Moon Knight series through my research on the character for the video that I was supposed to do on Moon Knight a long time ago. Yeah. That plan was postponed for so long. I was also planning on keeping it in the dark for longer by doing an X video. Not the one of the sexual variety, you pervert. I'm talking about the Dark Horse comic character. The problem with this character is that there's very little information on him, and I can't digitally purchase the comics on Kindle like I did with previous characters. Do trust though, that video will come in due time. Just not as soon as I hoped. But with that being said, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. As some of you may know, this video is about a character who was seen as many things, such as a Batman ripoff, an interesting street-level superhero, and another hero with a unique personality, or in his case, multiple personalities. The one known as Moon Knight is someone that some may call a Marvel legend, or Marvel Knight, if you will. One may ask, Moon Knight looks interesting, but I have no idea who he is. Why has he been around for so long, and why does he have a Disney Plus show after him? Well, Mark Spector, son of Elias and an unknown mother, grew up in a poor side of Chicago, where his father was the target of frequent discrimination due to his religion. A family friend by the name of Jets Perlman came into contact with Spector, though in reality he was a deserter of a certain organization in World War II and a serial killer named Ernst. While attempting to harm young Mark, Ernst would get a rude awakening when Mark would fight him off and escape his grasp. This incident would be the reasoning behind his dissociative identity disorder, leading to the creation of Stephen Grant and Jake Lockley. Mark was then admitted into Putnam Psychiatric Hospital, where he would be approached for the first time by Khonshu, the Egyptian god of the moon. Mark would lose his father later in his young life and was allowed to leave the hospital to pay his final respects to his father. This would not go smoothly, as Khonshu would encounter Mark again, which scared him away. Mark would enlist in the Marine Corps and serve 3 years. He would be dishonorably discharged due to his superiors taking notice of his odd behavior and recovering information of his past. He would later join the CIA, where he would encounter several individuals including William Cross, Amos Lander, and Randall Spector, his brother. He would later leave the CIA for a life of illegal fighting. This would lead him to befriending Jean-Paul Frenchy Duchamp, a French soldier formerly part of the French Foreign Legion. The two would take on assignments as soldiers for hire, mostly in Africa and South America. The two would travel to Egypt, where they would encounter Raoul Bushman, a mercenary from the fictional African nation of Burunda. They'd be taking part in an archaeological raid until Bushman killed the lead archaeologist in search of Khonshu's tomb. After a brief scuffle with Mark, which left him a bloody mess, Bushman will order his men to kill everyone in the immediate area except the archaeologist's daughter, Marlene, and a man named Ahmad, who agreed to take Bushman to Khonshu's tomb. Instead of dying in the Egyptian desert, Mark would walk and crawl his way to the tomb at the cost of his mental and physical health. He would be confirmed dead by one of the men moments later. Mark's spirit would make a deal with Khonshu that if he agreed to be his servant, Mark's life would be saved. Upon this agreement, Mark was returned to life and be granted superhuman powers by Khonshu. Upon his revival, Mark would seek vengeance on Bushman and his men. When the two were alone, ready for a final confrontation, Frenchie would distract Mark as he mistook Marlene for being a potential attacker, leading to Bushman to escape. Despite the loss of vengeance for the man that left him for dead, Mark Spector would become the Moon Knight. Following the birth of his new crime-fighting identity, Mark moved to New York City in a Long Island mansion with Frenchie and Marlene, who happens to be his new girlfriend. In New York, Mark will also live the lives of Stephen Grant, a Wall Street millionaire thanks to his gambling, and Jack Lockley, a street-smart cab driver who hears everything. Mark will be living the life of multiple personalities going forward. Moon Knight's first big job as the newest crime-fighting vigilante in New York came when a secret organization of businessmen known as the Committee hired him to capture a werewolf known as Jack Russell. Once it was revealed what their original intentions were, Moon Knight and Jack Russell would team up to shut down the Committee once and for all. Moon Knight would team up with some of New York's finest heroes such as the Defenders and Spider-Man during his quest to stop evildoers. Moon Knight would later become a member of the Defenders, a group of heroes banded together, temporarily, to combat against mystical forces. Moon Knight would return to fighting crime solo while encountering villains such as his brother, Hatchet Man, Slasher, and Midnight Man. Sometime into his crime-fighting career, Marlene would break up with Mark, having dealt with his schizophrenic behavior for too long. After the breakup, Moon Knight would leave New York for California and become a member of the West Coast Avengers, a division of the Avengers headquartered in Los Angeles, California. It was during his time with the team that Moon Knight would find a new crime-fighting partner named Tigra. The two, along with Mockingbird, Hawkeye's wife at the time, would leave the team and form their own splinter group. Following his high-stakes crime-fighting adventures, Moon Knight returned to New York and reunited with Marlene. He would also find out that during his absence from New York, Jeff Wilde, son of Midnight Man, tried to take his place as a crime fighter and eventually became the crime-fighting vigilante known as Midnight. The two would work together for some time until Midnight's apparent demise during their confrontation with the Secret Empire, a subdivision of Hydra. Similar to James Barnes, the Secret Empire would recover a not-so-dead Midnight, turn him into a cyborg, and brainwash him into believing Moon Knight was responsible for his father's death. The Empire would prove to be a nuisance to New York as heroes from New York would become involved to stop their evil plans. Moon Knight and Midnight would clash, which ended with Midnight's apparent demise again. Moon Knight's past would again come back to haunt him when his brother, Randall, returned to his life as Shadow Knight in an attempt to be Khonshu's new favorite warrior. He would succeed in this task, but with the help of the Punisher, Mark would prove to his brother who the best is. It was after this confrontation that Stephen Grant would create the company Spectre Corps to assist Moon Knight in his crime-fighting activities. During an attack at Spectre Corps, Seth Falcon, aka Seth the Immortal, would attack the company with a computer virus which would result in the building meltdown. Moon Knight would die in the meltdown to save his employees. However, Moon Knight will come back to life later thanks to the help of the Hand of Khonshu to get revenge on Seth and his team of villains, which included Bushman. Moon Knight would later join the Marvel Knights, a team originally known as Daredevil's unnamed superhero team, whose goal was to bring in the Punisher for his anti-hero antics. Through their adventures together, Moon Knight would lose money and would continue to fight crime. Mark would briefly retire as Moon Knight, though he would later engage Bushman in a rooftop battle, ending his life. Mark would don the identity of Moon Knight once again and take on the committee, who tasked Taskmaster to deal with him. Taskmaster would be left defeated and terrified. Moon Knight would not participate in the Civil War event, despite Captain America and Iron Man contacting him. Instead, he chose to fight against the new Midnight, who killed people for Moon Knight's attention, which will result in Midnight's death. Following the conclusion of the Civil War, Moon Knight would later register with the government so that he would be left alone while working. His work will come to a halt when a new but improved Norman Osborn, under the identity of Iron Patriot, sent the Thunderbolts to end him. Moon Knight will hide out in Mexico and live under his Jake Lockley identity. Moon Knight will return to New York and stop a bank robbery. Instead of murdering the criminals, like his normal MO is, he would instead simply beat them up, which upset Norman Osborn. To fight this, Osborn would enlist the help of the Hood and Profile to make him a distant memory. The Hood would use his supernatural abilities to resurrect Bushman, and the trio would plot to take care of Moon Knight. Not pleased to see the man who he killed in the past, Moon Knight would battle Bushman and nearly ended the fight the same way their last fight ended, though Bushman would stay alive this time. After some time, Moon Knight will be recruited by Captain America to be a member of the new and reorganized team of Avengers known as the Secret Avengers, following Norman Osborn's shenanigans. He would move to LA, where he will work as a television producer to highlight his past with his show called The Legend of Khonshu. During an interview, Captain America will warn him about an incoming danger and remind him that he's not alone as an Avenger. While confronting criminals in Los Angeles, Moon Knight would take on the personalities of multiple superheroes, including Spider-Man, Wolverine, and Echo. Moon Knight will later become part of the Avengers and X-Men conflict, where he sided with the Avengers in their attempt to capture Hope Summers. Following the conflict, Moon Knight will return to New York through the money he laundered. He would take on the Mr. Knight identity and work with Detective Flint. While fighting crime, Moon Knight would lose his personalities thanks to Eliza Warsam, Mark's psychiatrist, putting him under hypnosis. Khonshu would later come back into Mark's life as he led Mark into an illusionary mental hospital. This was in an attempt to cure Mark of his insanity. To become sane, Mark would have to embrace his identities instead of fight them. Following a series of events, Mark will return to the hospital to crush an illusion of Khonshu's head and finally gain control over his other personalities. Moon Knight would live his life with the Moon Knight persona, though Khonshu would have a repurposed role in his life. Unbeknownst to him, Sun King, an avatar of the sun god Amun-Ra, and Bushman returned to kill Moon Knight. They came up with a plan to abduct Marlene, only to discover that she and Mark had a child named Dietrich. The villains would kidnap Marlene instead, while Mark took Dietrich to safety. The villains would force Mark to follow them to the St. Palamon Island, where Moon Knight would confront Sun King. The two would battle, and despite mind games from Sun King, Mark would summon Berserker Strength and defeat Sun King. He would then take Sun King's followers for himself. Moon Knight would later find himself infiltrating a cult known as Societe des Sadiques, which is run by an old friend, Ernst. Hoping to recruit Mark, Ernst revealed he pulled strings to make the reunion possible. The two would engage in a fight, resulting in Ernst's death. Moon Knight would take on more adventures involving diseases from the city of Kunlun and battling the cult of Set. Moon Knight would prepare to battle Mephisto, one of many to be considered Marvel's devil, in an attempt to thwart his attempts to destroy Earth. To do so, he would absorb the powers of the Avengers of the Stone Age into mystical angst. The powers taken included Iron Fist, Thor, Doctor Strange, and Ghost Rider. He attempted to take Black Panthers, but that plan didn't work too well. Moon Knight will kill Mephisto with the combined powers and give it all to Khonshu, who will use it to remake New York City by creating New Thebe City. He will brand the Avengers as fugitive for harboring Starbrand, an infant who was the target of Khonshu. Seeing the madness unfold, Moon Knight will seek the counseling of Nick Fury, who is under the name of the Unseen, to gain a different kind of power. During a battle with Black Panther, which saw him having his ass handed to him, Moon Knight will pray to the Phoenix Force and he will become the host of the entity. Moon Knight will use these powers to fight and defeat Khonshu, with the stolen powers returned back to the Avengers. The Phoenix Force will try to persuade Moon Knight to raise the Earth, though he would reject the request. Thor, with his powers returned to him, knocked Moon Knight out and freed him from the parasitic entity. Moon Knight returned to solo life despite the Avengers attempting to help him. In more recent times, Moon Knight battled his former ally known as the Black Spectre, real name Robert Plesko. During a confrontation, Plesko would fatally shoot Moon Knight, leaving him to die. Moon Knight would courageously make his way to a kill sound broadcaster, something the Black Spectre intended to use to transform Manhattan's underground through a resonator. With the goal of setting the device up to explode, Moon Knight would recite the Shema and would sacrifice himself to destroy the resonator, which thwarted Plesko's plan and saved New York. The talented actor, Oscar Isaac, is the star of the Moon Knight character on the Disney Plus show, which was released on the 30th of March, 2022. He is also one of many actors to portray other comic book characters, such as his portrayal as Apocalypse in X-Men Apocalypse, and Miguel O'Hara in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Having made a deal with Khonshu to serve under him, Moon Knight is an immortal being, able to be resurrected upon death. He is also an expert detective, pilot, and interrogator. Moon Knight's skill in armed and unarmed combat makes him one of the best fighters in Marvel. Having been an accomplished boxer, Moon Knight is also skilled in fighting disciplines such as Kung Fu, Krav Maga, Karate, and Muay Thai. In terms of armed combat, Moon Knight uses an array of weapons such as shurikens, brass knuckles, various firearms, crescent darts, and many others. So if you plan on fighting Moon Knight, you better make sure you're prepared. Moon Knight's suit is also one made of adamantium, an upgrade from his original Kevlar suit. Thank you for watching this video. This one took not only a lot of time to research, but it also took a lot of time for me to do just because I put it off for so long. And I must say, despite the research and the work I put into making this video, it was worth it. I hope you learned something new about Moon Knight, more than what you may have originally thought you knew, and I hope you enjoyed the video. It'll be interesting to see how Moon Knight comes back in the comics, as well as in live action, because I feel like I'm not the only one when I say this, that Oscar Isaac's portrayal as Mark Spector in the Moon Knight series was definitely a great one. And there are talks of him possibly reprising his role in the future MCU role, so who knows? We'll see. Whenever it does happen, I'll be there to view it. With that being said, thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves. Make good decisions. and have a wonderful rest of your day.